Good morning, all. This is our module 3, first chapter in our system software and compiler design. From your module 3, module 4, and module 5, completely based on your compiler design concepts. So, in your compiler design, module 3, first chapter is based on your lexical analysis, and this is the agenda of this session or for this video. First, what do you mean by language processor is nothing. Language processors is nothing but you are trying to convert whatever the human written code, whatever you have written as a code, it will be converted to the machine level language, or it will be converted to the machine understandable language. So, or executable program. That is nothing but your language processes. In that language processes, first is your preprocessor. What do you mean by preprocessors? Whatever the predefined functions, those are all you can call it as a preprocessors. And one more definition for your preprocessors is preprocessor is a part of your object code. It is a part of your object code which will give the input for your compilers. That is nothing but your preprocessors. In your previous module, you already learned about macros. Your macros is one of the example for your preprocessors. And you all know about what do you mean by compilers. Compiler is nothing but we are using compilers to convert from to convert from human language, or whatever the source program to, it will translate the source program to your machine level language. That is the working procedure of your compilers. And next, you all learned, you will already had a module or a chapter in as a assemblers. Assemblers is nothing but which is used to translate from source program to your assembly level language. Then what do you mean by interrupts? Interpreters. Interpreters is nothing but this is also same as your compilers. It is also used to translate from your source program to your but in your compilers it will directly translate from source program to your machine level language or high level language. But in your interpreters, it always converts source program or source program to its intermediate code. It won't directly convert to your machine level language. It will create a one separate file called as intermediate code. That is one of the difference between your compilers and interpreters. And loaders and linkers. Why we use loaders and linkers? You already know that whatever the code, object code, it is generated by your compiler or assembler or by your interrupts, it will be loaded to your memory location, or it will be whatever the object code generated, it will be loaded and linked to your main memory through your loaders and linkers editors, loader and linker editors. And this is the skeleton structure, how your processor preprocessor compiler assembler will work. First you are in this first you are giving a skeleton source program is nothing but whatever the code you have written. Being an user, whatever the code you have written, that is your skeleton source program. You are giving that as an input to your preprocessors. Preprocessor is nothing but it is already a predefined executable set of codes. It preprocesses, and whatever the source program you will be giving as an input to the preprocessor, it will be processed and it will be generated via source program. It will provide an input to the compiler, and your compiler, as I said you before, your compiler will translate from target program or source program to your machine level language or high level language. That high level uh, that output will be given as an input to your assemblers. Though whatever the output you will get from the compiler, you will call it as a target assembly program. That will be the input for your assembler. Your assembler will generate, or your assembler will convert the target assembly level language to your machine level language. Once it is generated, that object code or that target program will be located in your main memory using your linkers. This is how your this is how your program will get translated from source program to your target program. Then what is the difference between your compiler and interpreter? As I said you before, your compiler will directly your compiler is used to translate from source program to your machine level language or high level language. But interpreters will translate the source program. It will generate a separate file called as intermediate code file. That is the one major difference between your compiler and the interpreter. And next, in your compiler, whenever the error, if while you are compiling, if any of the error occurs, it won't it won't halt at that particular line. It won't break from at that point. It will completely execute, or it will completely scan it will scan the complete source code. Then at the end it will produce, or it will show you a error message by saying this, in this line you will be having a error. That is the working procedure of your compiler. But in your interpreters, it won't work like that. In your interpreters, if you are trying to scan the source program, um, it will be, whenever the error is encountered, it will be stopped at it will be stopped at that point. It will it will break the execution at that point. That is how your interpreter will work. That is the difference between your compiler and interpreter. In other way, you can say it as compiler executes the complete program in a one shot, but in your interpreter it is a line by line execution. That is the difference between your interpreter and a compiler. And next is your translators. The name itself indicates that you are trying to translate from one language to another language. That is nothing but your translators. Types of translators, your interpreters, compilers, and preprocessors, all are a type of translators. And next is your structure of a compiler. How the compiler will work. What is the structure of your compiler? The structure of your compiler, you can also call it as a phases of a compiler. There are different phases in a compiler, how your machine or how your code will get executed. These first three, whatever you are seeing here, these first three, lexical analysis, lexical analyzer, syntax analyzer, semantic analyzer, these three stages will be work in a front end, and it is used for the source program. Whatever the source program you will be giving, it will be pre-processed, or it will be processed in these three steps. After these three steps, next three steps will be used to generate the target code. This is a different phases of a compiler. In this first phase is our lexical analyzer. What do you mean by lexical analyzer? Lexical analyzer is nothing but, you can call it as a scanners also. It is used to read the source program from one character at a time. It will always use to read the source program one character at a time. And another one major thing here is, in your lexical analyzer, you are always giving a input as a source program, but your lexical analyzer will generate the tokens. It will, for a given expression, or the for a given instruction, it will generate the token. And the tokens will generate only for the variables, and it won't generate the token for the constants. This is the one of the example. For your lexical analyzer, this position int plus rate star 60, this is the equation or the expression you have given as an input as a source code. And when you pass it to the lexical analyzer, it will generate a tokens. It will be taking whatever the variables, different variables you are considering here. Position it is taking as a first identifier, and initial it is considering as a second identifiers, and rate it is considering as a third identifier. But here, you can observe this in, for this 60, for the constant value, it is not generating any tokens. In your lexical analyzer, it will generate the tokens only for the expression, only for the variables or identifiers. It won't generate for the constants. You need not to take it as a id1 or id2 id3. You can give any values or you can give any variables. It is not mandatory that you have to give id1 id2 id3 itself. It is nothing but you are just generating here. Your lexical analyzer will just generate the tokens for the given expression, which is easy for the machine to understand and for further evaluations. And that tokens will be given as an input for your syntax analysis or syntax analyzer. In that syntax analyzer, you will be giving the token as the inputs whatever generated by your previous step or by your lexical analyzer, and that is the input for your syntax analysis or syntax analyzer. Once it is given, your syntax analyzer will convert from tokens to a parse tree. You all know how to write the parse tree. Always in this syntax analyzer, all in the parse tree, always the leaf are called as identifiers. These leaves nodes will always say identifiers. Whatever the intermediate nodes you will be having, always it will be indicates the operators. Your intermediate nodes will always the operators. Your left hand side, whatever the leaves you will be getting, it will be always so, in the right hand side, whatever the nodes you will be getting or a leaf node will always identifiers. This is how your parse tree will generated in your syntax table, and those parse trees will be the input for your semantic analysis. Whatever the output generated by your syntax analysis syntax analyzer, it will be an input for your semantic analyzer. In this semantic analyzer, first it will check uh, has it is specifying here, it is nothing but in your syntax analysis it is a type checking or type conversion. Here this 60 is nothing but a variable, it is nothing but a constant. Here they are taking it as a constant int to real values. So it is just identifying, or it will check whatever the types or whatever the expression you have given, whether it is a right or wrong. You can in one word you can see it as it is a syntax checking. Whatever the identifiers or constants you have given, whether it is an initialized or defined, it is defined or not, it will be done by your syntax analyzer. These are the three steps which will be work in the front end, which is used to process your source program. And once it is processed, this is the synthesis of your object code. Once these three steps are done, you will be getting a parse tree from your syntax analyzer, and you will be getting a symbol table which is generated by your semantic analyzer. That both will be an input for your intermediate code generator. In this, what do you mean by intermediate code generator? This intermediate code generator, code optimizer, and code generator are the three steps which is used to generate the target program. Till now, you have just processed or you just converted the source program, which is understandable by your machine, and now you are converting that source program to the target program. In this, what do you mean by intermediate code generator? Whatever the input you have given in the form of parse tree and a symbol table, that will be the whatever the output you have get from your syntax analyzer and the semantic analyzer, that will be an input for your intermediate code generator. And what happens in your intermediate code generator, for each and every identifier, it is creating a one temporary variable. You are trying to store that value in this temporary variable. In this intermediate code generator, as I said, you interpreters are mainly used to translate from source program, whatever the program you have taken, to an intermediate codes. This will be done by your interpreters. This intermediate code generator or intermediate code generation will be done by your interpreters. And this is a different temporary variables you are taking to store the values. For each and every individual expression, you are trying to take a different variables or temporary variables, you are trying to store that values. Your first one is your constant value 60. You are converting that integer to real values, and those 60, whatever the value 60 is, it will be stored in your temporary variable. And you can check here what is the instruction or the expression you have taken. This is the expression. This 60 has to be multiplied by your id 3, or you can take it as a token 3. You are doing here whatever the value you are taking, it is specified, or it is stored in your temporary one variable. So you are multiplying that variable with your id 3. That value, resultant value, will be stored in your temp 2. This is how your intermediate code generation will work. And this next phase, your code optimization. Your code optimization phase is not mandatory in each and every source program. While executing each and every source program, it is an optional phase. If you want to minimize the number of if you want to minimize the number of instructions, then you can make use of this code optimization. Otherwise, it is up to the user or the developer. In what happens in your code optimization, whatever the you in a previous intermediate code generator, you will be taking a different temporary variables for each and every expression. But here you are trying to minimize you are trying to minimize the set of instructions which has been generated by your intermediate code generator. So here, the constant value you are trying to store it into temp1. But once you pass that to the code optimizer, it will directly taking your code optimizer will directly taking that constant value, and it is multiplying with the id 3. Those value, whatever the after performing the multiplication operation, whatever the resultant you will get, it will be stored in your temp 1. And next, what you have to do after this, after performing this operation, you have to add that value with the id 2. Here you are adding the temp value with your id2, and you are storing that in your temp 3. After, what you are doing, you are storing that whatever the resultant value you are obtained in your temp 3, you are storing that resultant value to the one of the identifier, that is id1. Here they are skipping those two steps, and they will they wrote only one, within a one single step. You are adding the temp1 value to your id2, and whatever the resultant value, you are directly storing to the resultant variable. This is about your code optimizer, how the code optimizer will work. Next is your code generation. Once you optimize the code, once you once the target code is built, you have to generate the code. I mean, it has to be in a human, or it has to be understandable easily. So once the output of this code optimizer is given or passed to the code generator, it will generate the code which is understandable by human, or which is easily understandable. Here, what you are doing, and one more thing, in a previous whatever you have taken, it will be make use of only the identifiers and directly the temporary variables. But in a code generator, it will make use of only the registers. Here you are considering a register hard to, you are moving uh, move flo- move f is nothing but you are moving the floating point value of id 3. Whatever the id 3 value you have getting, you are just moving that id 3 value to your r2 register. And after that, what you are trying to do, you have to perform the multiplication operation, whatever the content present in your id 3, along with that constant value 60. So you are directly giving the immediate value as a 60. That you are performing multiplication operation for floating points. You are passing the immediate value as a 60. Along with that, you are taking a r2 value. In your r2, it is previously present the id 3 value. Once whenever you are passing only two values, by that time this will be acts as your source, and this will be acts as both source and the destination, because r2 is already consisting of id 3 value. The 60, whatever the immediate address or whatever the immediate value you are passing, it will be multiplied with the r2 value, and again the resultant value will be stored back in your r2 register itself. This is how your this instruction will work. Next, you are performing move operation. Whatever the content present in your ID2, you are passing that to R1. What is the next process? You have to perform the addition operation. So you are adding the floating point numbers, whatever present in your R2 and R1. So after performing this, resultant values will be stored in your R1 register. Once it is done, you are moving that floating point value, whatever the resultant value present in your R1 register, you are moving that resultant value to your final variable, final resultant variable as ID1. This is the different phases of your compiler. This is how your compiler will work. This is very important topic in this chapter, so please go through. Please take your own example. Here I have given one expression, right? You take for another one expression. Here you take another one expression, try to do it, try to give the different token names, then perform each and every operation, each and every step, create, generate a parse tree, generate a different tokens, try to solve it, and finally try to write the code try to finally try to generate the code. This is about your phases of compiler, and your next topic is the evaluation of programming language. In this evaluation of programming language has the name indicating that how it has been evolved from the long time. You are just it is just a theory, you can go through that. It is nothing but how your higher level language has been implemented, why it is not execute, I mean why they didn't make use of a low level languages. It's all just a theory. And the main concept in this evaluation of programming languages, compiler optimization and design. Why you make use of the compiler and what is the objective of designing that compiler optimization? In that, first objective is to improve the performance of many programs. Uh, that is the first objective for designing the compiler optimization, to improve the performance of many programs. And next one is optimization must be correct. Whatever you are in this code optimization, whatever the you are trying to reduce the set of instruction, it has to be very accurate. If you have done only single mistake in your code optimization also, you will get the wrong output. So it has to be very accurate. And next objective is to compilation time must be kept reasonable. Once the number of instructions are very less, whatever the compilation time you will require to execute the source program, it will get reduced. That is the one more objective. And the next objective is engineering effort required must be manageable. Whatever the whatever the effort required by the engineers or the developers, it is somehow manageable by these compilers and the interpreters. These are all the four objectives why the compiler is optimized and designed. And your next topic is applications of compiler technology. In this applications, the first one is your implementation of high level programming language. Why you have implemented the high level programming language? Why you are not making use of your low level programming language? That is what the one of the reason in your one of the application of your compiler. First, why you implemented the high level programming languages? The programmer expresses an algorithm using the language, and the compiler must translate that program to the target language. Generally, the high level programming language are easy to program and easy to program in, but are less efficient. Even though your programming language is easier to program, but it is less efficient compared to your low level programming. In your high level programming language, the target program runs very slowly. But whereas you compare to your low level programming language, the you can have a more control over the computation and can produce more efficient code in our low level programming language. But still, why we are not making use of our low level programming languages? It is harder to write. Your high level programming language is easier for the developer to write and build a model, but in your low level programming language it is harder to write the code. But the computation speed compared to our high level language and low level languages, your low level language computation speed is very high, but still it is not so easy or not so efficient way to write the code. So we are making use of your high level programming languages. And that next topic is your optimization for computer architecture. Optimization is nothing but you are trying to get the efficient way of execution. You are trying to get the very efficient way, how efficiently you can execute the process or execute the program. That is nothing but the optimization of computer architecture. In that you will get a it can be differentiated or classified in two forms. One is your parallelism and next one is your memory hierarchies. Your optimization can be decide or can be uh, create can be classified or can be obtained, or optimization efficiency can be obtained using two types. One is parallelism and another one is memory hierarchies. Hope you all know what do you mean by parallelism. Multi-programming concepts, I think you learned in your operating systems. Parallelism is nothing but if you are executing the same process or if you are trying to execute the same instruction in a different systems. Parallelism is nothing but a single task can be divided and executed simultaneously. That is nothing but your parallelism. If you are executing a single process or if you are dividing a single task and it is executed by a number of processes means whatever the efficiency you will get, it is very high. And next comes to the memory hierarchies. You all know the memory hierarchy structure, but the one thing you have to concentrate here is in the memory hierarchies. If the hierarchy of if the structure of that memory, if it is large in size, it is very less efficient. If it is a very small in size, it is more efficient. It can't be both. In your memory hierarchy is structured in such a way that for example, in your memory hierarchy, first thing you will first topmost memory is your registers. Registers are a temporary variables, or also you can call it as a it is having a very less in size. The size capacity of your register is very less, but compared to all other memories, your registers will be executed, or the computation speed of your register is very high. That's what I said before. If in your memory, if you are having a size if the size is increased, your computation speed will get decreased, and your registers will be having it is a more it is a more most costliest memory. You are compared to all the other memories, or compared to all the storage devices, your memories, your register, even though it is having a small size, because of your computation speed, it is having a very high cost. This is about your memory hierarchy. And next one is your program translation. I already said you about translators. What do you mean by translators? Translators are mainly used to translate from one from one language to another language. That is nothing but your translators. But here there are different kinds of translators. One is your binary translation. What do you mean by binary translation? It is a technology compiler, or a technology can be used to translate the binary code from one machine to that another. It is nothing but you are trying to translate the binary code of one machine to another, which is used to, as I said you, for the parallelism, you can run a same set of instruction in a different processor. It can be a multiprocessor or it can be a uniprocessor. So if you want to run the same binary code means it can be done or it can be translated using your binary translation. And next one is your hardware synthesis. In your hardware synthesis, uh, the hardware designs are mostly described in your high level hardware description. Your all your software or whatever the hardware you are trying to connect, for that also you should have some set of instructions, some set of codes. For example, if you want to insert any of the external devices like your pen drives or mm, any external hard disk, it has to be predefined whatever the set of if you want to try to connect with the system, some set of predefined drivers has to be there. In the same way, all your most hardware design, whenever they have designed the hardware, it is written in a high level hardware description languages. So hardware designs are typically described at the register transfer level. That is the one translation. If you want to transfer any of the data from your hardware to the processor, to the system, means you should have the specific device drivers. It is done, it is written in your high level languages. And next is your database query interpreters. You all learn about database queries. So query languages like SQL are used to search the database. These database queries consist of relational and boolean operators. They can be compiled into commands to search a database for records satisfying the needs. This is about your database query interpreters. And the last topic in this chapter is your software productivity tool. Software productivity tool, what do you mean by that? Whatever the content you are given, it has to whatever the source code you have given as an input, it has to perform some operation. It is nothing but the software, all the tool which you are trying to execute that program, it has to done set of operations. A few software productivity tool operations are type checking. What is the type or type checking is nothing but you can consider like if you declared int a in the further program, if you are trying to define it as a float or using a float values, then no, it will check for the type whether it is a type matching or not. That is your type checking. And next one is your bounds checking, memory management tools. These are all few examples for your software productivity tools. This is the end of your module 3 chapter 1. If you have any doubts, revert me back. Thank you.